Today I'm going to be talking about male versus female sex hormones and mood regulation. First, we have to understand what's behind these hormones. The first thing I'm going to be looking at is genetics. Hormones play a crucial role in mood and mood regulation, but sexes have significantly different levels of them. The composition of males and females comes from their genes, males having an XY chromosome and females having an XX chromosome on the 23rd chromosome pair. This ultimately causes phenotypic differences in what organs they have. Males develop testes, which produce large amounts of testosterone, whereas rather than testes, women develop ovaries, which help to produce estrogen. Since males produce a higher amount of testosterone than females, it can have an impact on mood, which I will talk about more in a little bit. Also, women are genetically wired to go through processes like menstruation and menopause, which can cause fluctuations in hormone levels and mood dysregulation. Next, I'm going to talk about a neurochemical perspective and how neurotransmitters and hormones can affect mood. Testosterone is known to improve mood and can generally help reduce things like depression, where someone would have a negative mood. On the other hand, women who produce larger amounts of estrogen can have a different reality with their sex hormones and mood. Estrogen can help to regulate mood and improve it, but with large changes or fluctuations in concentration or amount of the hormone, it can negatively impact mood and influence things like depression. And as I said earlier, due to female processes like menstruation and menopause, which can dramatically fluctuate one's mood and estrogen levels, their hormone and mood fluctuations can lead to mood disorders. Fluctuations can also happen in male sexes, but it tends to be more likely in females. Studies have also shown that other chemicals like serotonin, GABA, and dopamine can be linked to differences in mood between males and females. The hormones and neurotransmitters work on feedback loops, so they hope to regulate each other and ultimately regulate mood. Next, I'm going to be looking at whole body systems and the endocrine system. The endocrine system is a body system that has a network of organs and glands that help to create and release hormones. In one research experiment, scientists did a study with the endocrine system to see how the hormonal release in men and women, when presented with stress, caused different salivary cortisol reactions. They found that women had more extreme reactions and produced higher cortisol levels than men, which could be regulated by their sex hormones, estrogen, which helps to regulate the HPA axis. The male and female hormones play an important role in this by activating the HPA axis, which we talked about some in class, which then signals the adrenal gland and the kidneys to release cortisol. The way that this can regulate mood is by the amount of cortisol that the body releases, because higher levels of cortisol can decrease serotonin, which would then create a more negative mood. So, how do researchers and scientists study these differences in hormones? One research method is an fMRI, a functional magnetic resonance imaging. In one research experiment, the fMRI showed how there were differences in activity in the brains of male and female individuals, and that the steroid hormones released in the areas were different and, in fact, differed in sex dependent ways. So, in the experiment where they were using the fMRI to see the differences in sexes and how the steroid hormones were different in different areas, they ultimately found more hyperactivities in more areas of the male's brains. The psychosis and mood disorders being evaluated in this experiment were related to dysregulation of the sex hormones, which can dysregulate mood. So, to relate this more to the topic of mood disorder and dysregulation, the differences in brain hyperactivity are affected by factors like the level of testosterone and estrogen available to the individual, which ultimately impacts mood and hyperactivity in regions of the brain differently in the individuals of different sexes and can cause things like psychosis. So, just to go through some final thoughts and recap all the main points of what I just talked about, I'm going to start with genetics again. So again, genetics are the building blocks of individuals and help create their anatomical structures, which aid in the production of different levels of hormones like testosterone and estrogen. Then again, neurochemically, testosterone and estrogen can both help positively affect mood and decrease likelihood of depression, except when large fluctuations of hormone concentration occur. They work with other chemical signals like serotonin, dopamine, and GABA through feedback loops to help regulate and adjust mood. And then again, to look at whole body systems, the endocrine system works with sex hormones like testosterone and estrogen, which help to regulate the HPA axis of the system and help adjust to the amount of cortisol being produced, which can affect and regulate stress responses, mood, and anxiety. And then lastly, research methods. Scientists can use fMRI research to study the areas of the brain in which the different sex hormones are present and active in a patient, and that helps them study things like psychosis and mood dysregulation.